Hi guys! It's a cold day. Not cold in the sense of temperature, but a lot of moist in the air. It's 1 degree Celsius, and this is actually the period of the year where a lot of accidents happen. It's really easy to get hypothermia in this, because there's so much moist in the air, can be a lot of wind and so on. And I know that a lot of us in the bushcraft community, we know how to make fire in this, no problem. We can find the right materials, and usually if we are smart, we already have collected a lot of these things while we're going. But there's one thing that you have to take into your consideration, and that is when you have other people with you. You take your friends in these kinds of areas, or in my case, it's my job to take people out in this, because I give courses in survival and nature awareness and stuff like that. And these people, they usually are not knowledgeable or have experience with these kinds of environments. So they actually do things that you wouldn't do. They don't notice stuff that you would notice. So it's really, really important that you keep an eye on your group. So I want to talk today about safety slightly, because what happens if one of your group just falls through that ice, or is walking behind you for hours and hours, doesn't complain about anything, and you notice that he's completely hypothermic? That is exactly the time that you do not start talking about how to make a fire the bushcraft way. You need that fire right now, without delay, and it needs to be established. There should be no problems, because it is a critical situation. And if you take people out in these kinds of situations, you must take the responsibility of bringing along the stuff so that that works. So I'll show you right now how I make a fire in that kind of emergency situation. I will do this way slower than I would do this in an actual emergency, but I want you to, of course, see what I'm doing, and I want to talk a bit about it. But this is something that you can do really, really fast. In my backpack, when I'm out with my students, I always have an emergency fire pack in some kind of plastic or a dry bag, just to keep it dry, of course. In there I have a bit of aluminium foil, a piece of rubber inner tubing, pieces of birch bark, cotton balls, and dry kindling, and also slightly thicker kindling, because what I want to do is I want to establish this fire really fast, put the person with the fire, and then start looking for more fuel for my fire. But I need to have some initial fuel. I don't have to go and look for anything in this situation. So make sure that you keep all this really dry. If it's raining, put up something around it, have somebody else protect it, maybe hold a plastic bag or a little tarp around it so that you can make the fire. You need all to work together in such situations. The first thing you have to do is make sure that you can make a fire. You see, this is all wet snow, it won't work. We don't have time to go around finding nice little pins for making a bed. That's why I have this aluminium foil tin. So make sure that all the snow around it is gone, so that you don't have snow falling into your fire when you're working with it. Just remove the stuff as good as you can, of course. And you use the tin foil as a bed for the fire. The only reason for this is so that the moist doesn't come up. If you make fire in this wet snow, you will have problems with moist, and that will, well, make it more difficult to establish the fire. this should help. You don't have to spend a lot of time, but you need to find a place that you're slightly out of the elements. If there's a lot of wind, like a stone like this can help, but if it's not possible, have somebody sit there or whatever. I take one slightly bigger one. That will be the place that I will put my little sticks on, and I will make the initial fire here. I use cotton balls because they are almost faster to light than using a big lighter with my fire steel. And I use the inner tube because this will burn even if it's soaking wet. When it's streaming of rain, a piece of a bicycle inner tube or from a car or whatever, this will burn, and it will burn quite a long time and hot. So I open up the cotton ball. Make sure that burns immediately, see, really fast. Put your inner tube on that, and if you have dry bark, you immediately put dry bark on that. It will probably work without the inner tube, but it's just a security measure for making sure that this fire is going to be established. There's no other reason. It will give a lot of black smoke, but you will not have the problem in the rain that your bark stops burning. If you have a lot of these birch bark or any kind of good tinder, put it on as much as possible. You will need the heat from it. And then you start putting very thin pieces on it. That you had with you. It's an awful smell because of the inner tube, but who cares in the situation? There's only one concern here, and that is really quickly establish a fire. This is not about form, this is function over form. Much important in this case. So in this case, when you have a group, and I've put all my small kindling there, I still have a lot of the birch bark, so I can always try to save it if some really strange thing happened that it would go out. It's really improbable now with the inner tube. But now you would send out somebody to get more fuel. I still have some good pieces of fuel in here, and it's good to have slightly thicker so that you're not in some crisis. There's already quite a lot of heat from this. So your person, the person in need can already start warming. And because I was talking a lot now, this took still some minutes, but you understand that if you are trying to do this and you're not talking about it, you do this in less than half a minute. And that is really important as well. Without the risk of actually not establishing the fire, because a lot of people can be able to make the flames and then it dies out. You need to be able to establish it. That's number one priority. Now you can go out and find firewood and stuff. Right, so yeah, you have to have a few things with you. But as a guide or an instructor or the leader of the group, that's just your responsibility. You cannot ignore this fact. I mean, I know that we're out here teaching how to make fires in a natural way, but somewhere in your backpack you need to have a kit for just this circumstance. Because now you'll have here a fire that's well established, and I still have a few bits left, but it will be enough energy here now and heat to start drying out wet stuff that I can find here right now. but most importantly, the person that can start warming up. Fire, of course, is only one aspect of this. When I have a course, I really want to know slightly about medical history of persons. It's really important for me to know if somebody is an epileptic or a diabetic or has heart problems or is allergic of stuff. I always have a little lifesaver first aid kit for myself when I'm out in my films, and I show you that sometimes. But when I'm out with a group of students, I got quite a lot more with me. I got sugar with me, I got a survival blanket with me, I always have antihistamine with me for allergic reactions, and I want to know if people have an EpiPen or something like that. All this stuff is interesting when you're leading a group out into nature. You need to know how to deal with emergencies. Even a simple thing as aspirin can be really, really important for somebody who's a heart patient. So if you go out with a group of friends, it's nice to know a few things, of course. When you're doing this slightly more professional, it's really, really important that you have a real first aid education. And if you're out in the wilderness, there is one little element to that. Because usually when you're doing a normal first aid education, the assumption is that you are within hours or even minutes from a hospital. When you're out in these kinds of wildernesses, you can be 12 hours, 40 hours, 48 hours away from any medical help. So you will need some extra things. That's why I followed, for instance, the WMI course from Knowles. It's wilderness medicine. And you will teach slightly more things about how to fix a fracture, how to set it again, how to set disjointed joints and so on. And you will learn a bit more about these things with allergies and how to react, and what is a workable injury and a not workable injury. So that's really important, guys. If you go out, even if it's really your friends, you need to have some knowledge about first aid, or somebody in the group at least. And it is also really nice that everybody is honest with you, tells you about their medical problems, but they can be important for life later if there is some kind of an emergency, of course. A very, very interesting thing to have with you, of course, is a mobile phone, if you have coverage, so that you can notify authorities or an hospital or whatever, and also a very little GPS. When something happens, you might need to give first responders your coordinates, or you might even need to leave the group to find help. In that case, by the way, never ever leave a patient there on its own. If you are a group, you have to put somebody there to help him and to stay with him, and you or somebody else can start looking for help. And then, of course, a GPS is really nice so that you can find back the party. I also always have with me some sort of tarp, because if you are having somebody that cannot walk anymore, that needs to lie down or is unconscious or whatever, it's really nice to get him out of the wind. So a nice 3x3 or 2.5x3 kind of tarp, camping tarp, you can always set that up so that the person in question is out of the wind, and it is even some extra insulation if it's needed. So yeah, that's a bit my story for today. I don't know why I brought it up right now. It was the kind of weather, and also because when you look at all the films that I did and that a lot of you out there do, there is this urge to be a Puritan, this urge to be as minimalistic as you can be. And of course that is also what I teach my students. Nature awareness, for me, tracking and nature awareness are the basis for all survival in my own courses. But that doesn't mean that I am not prepared for anything that might go wrong on these courses themselves. The thing is, you never ever put anybody in a survival situation. Survival is never fun. It's never educational either. apart from the well-known saying, if it didn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Well, in survival it is like that, but who wants to gamble on that? So when I have survival courses, I'm out in this kind of wilderness, I always have access to warmth, I always have access to safety, and we try out these things. I don't want a student sleeping a really, really bad night into a snow grave because it's 0 degrees or even colder, and he is really, really irritable, he gets tired, and he loses focus. And the worst thing, when you're in that state, you will not learn. And he pays me that I teach him. So that is not the situation that I want for my students. I will explain how to do it. I will explain how to make long-term survival possible. And this basically is long-term survival. I had this stuff with me already. It's for emergencies. And in fact, when you're doing bushcraft, you're not going to find the stuff to make fire when you need the fire. You will train yourself to always find, pick and collect and gather the stuff when you actually find it. Put it in a bag, take it with you, so that that bag that I had there is always in your backpack or in your satchel and whatever. And that can be completely natural, with only natural stuff. But like in our society, when you're in the evening on the sofa and in the morning go out with a group, it's nice to prepare this bag and make it absolutely fail-safe. And that's what this is all about. So I hope that was interesting information for you all. Slightly different from my side. Instead of being the minimalist that I am, making a fire within a tube is not really my style, but I think it's really important for you all to realize that you have a responsibility when you're out with the group. So hope you liked it. See you on the next film, guys.